Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome today. We're just going to take a couple minutes here while everybody live joins us and all our attendees come in. Thank you so much for waiting. My name is Angela. I'm with Bookshop, and we are thrilled today to have with us the legendary photographer, Mick Rock, along with two of his publisher, Taschen, members, Creed Poulson and Reuel Golden, whom I will introduce shortly as well. And again, we're just going to take a little bit of about a 4-minute intro here to talk about Bookshop, our work, and introduce our incredible guests today before we hand it over to them and to Creed, who will be moderating today. And then at about 30 minutes in, if you are live watching this, at the bottom of your screen is a Q&A icon. About 30 to 45 minutes in Creed will start taking live questions from the audience. So please feel free to submit those. Again, those are going to be vetted in real time for those of you watching this now, not pre-recorded in the future. So we might not be able to get to all of the questions, and we thank you very much for your understanding if we do not get to all the questions in time today. That said, let's start talking about Bookshop a little bit. And I will hand it off to Creed very clearly after I introduce our wonderful guests too. Okay, so first and foremost, let's just go into speak about our work here. Again, I'm Angela Januzzi. I work with marketing and special programs here at Bookshop, programs like these. And again, we just want to make sure that everyone knows at the end of this event, we will be putting it on YouTube, it will be recorded, and that you'll get a link to Mick's book, Mick Rock, The Rise of David Bowie, 1972 to 1973, which again, you can buy on bookshop.org and also in the links provided at the end of this event and then an email. So first, a word about Bookshop.
Hi.
Oh, not yet, Mick.
Get out and you
talk about Bookshop a little longer.
There's a sound going on that we don't want.
Oh, okay.
I just want to get rid of it.
Okay.
That's all.
So I'm going to talk about Bookshop and Mick will be right back. So every book purchase that you make on Bookshop is actually going to independent bookstores, and you can make sure that if you want to support a local bookstore in your vicinity, you can find it on the map on bookshop.org, or you can choose your bookstore that you prefer if they are affiliated with us. We want to support bookstores because we believe that they are essential to a healthy culture, that where authors connect with readers, where we discover new writers, and where children get hooked on the thrill of reading that can last a lifetime. And of course, they're anchors for our downtowns and communities. So even before quarantine, we wanted to create an easy and convenient way for you to get your books and support bookstores at the same time, especially for stores whose e-commerce capacity or their inventory space we can help supplement at bookshop.org. So as a standard, we always encourage customers to buy books directly from your local bookstore first whenever possible. And if for some reason you cannot do so, again, you can come on bookshop.org and find a local store and many stores on our map on our website. So we support anyone who advocates for books through our affiliate program. So if you sign up, you'll get 10% commission on every sale. And then we also give a matching 10% to independent bookstores too in our pool. And then all bookstores that are affiliates with us receive 30% of the cover price for the book that you buy. So if you buy it through a store's affiliate page, they will get 30% of that sale. If you just buy it through an affiliate page or not associated with the store, they'll still get 10%. By design, Bookshop gives away over 75% of our profit margin to stores, publications, authors, and others who make up the thriving and inspirational culture around books, just like our guests here today. And so we hope that Bookshop can strengthen the fragile ecosystem and margins around book selling and keep local bookstores an integral part of our culture and our communities. One last note, Bookshop is a B Corp, a corporation dedicated to public good. So now for introducing our panelists today, the reason you are all here. And let's get started. I'll introduce you and then I'll hand it over to Creed. First, we have the legendary photographer, Mick Rock, often referred to as the man who shot the 70s for his iconic images of David Bowie, Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, Queen, Syd Barrett, the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, Blondie, Rocky Horror Picture Show, many, many more. We can't even list them here. London-born, Mick has resided in New York in the last 35 years and has shot over 100 album covers. In reality, Mick never really stopped shooting. His recent subjects also include Snoop Dogg, Father John Misty, Lenny Kravitz, Janelle Monáe, Jimmy Fallon, Black Keys, Karen O. I'm going to keep going. Elle Goulding, Alicia Keys, Michael Bublé, Daft Punk, Perry Farrell, Motley Crue, TV on the Radio, Farrell, Flaming Lips, Nas, Rufus Wainwright, Kings of Leon, Black Lips, Queens of the Stone Age. Again, that's just to name a few. In recent years, he has published numerous books, right? Mostly based on his classic images, and to be discussed here today, especially Mick Rock, The Rise of David Bowie, 1972 to 1973 from Taschen, both editions of which are available on bookshop.org as well. He also produced and directed music videos for the classic Bowie songs, John, I'm Only Dancing, The Gene Genie, Space Oddity.
This noise.
Right? Can you still hear?
No, we can't hear it, Mick. It's perfect.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm almost done with your bio, Mick, I promise. Mick, did you know that you've had major exhibitions in London, New York, Los Angeles, Tokyo, San Francisco, and Las Vegas?
Yeah,
So thank you, Mick, for being here with us. Thank you, Mick. And we're going to introduce Reuel and Creed really quickly, and then Creed will hand it off, okay? So next, Reuel Golden is an award-winning writer and editor specializing in photography, history, and pop culture. Golden graduated in politics from the University of Sussex, UK, and is former editor of the British Journal of Photography. He was also senior editor of the world's biggest magazine for professional photographers, the New York-based Photo District News, and he has numerous titles for Taschen, including books that traverse topics as diverse as pop art, football, music, and the British monarch. And finally, Creed Poulson, our moderator today, is the executive director at Taschen, the global publishing house and official publisher of Mick Rock, David Bowie. He has also served as marketing director and public relations manager for the company Taschen. So again, all those bios were shortened in the interest of time. Thank you so much again to all of you for joining us. I'm going to go away now and I will let Creed moderate.
Sure.
And thank you for joining Bookshop today. And yeah, again, Q&A will be about 30 to 45 minutes in, everyone, if you're watching this live. And I'll hand this over to Creed, Mick, and Reuel now. Thank you all again.
Thanks, Angela, and for good reason. My bio was by far the shortest, wasn't it? But let's get to the real talent here, and that would be the great Mick Rock and Reuel Golden. It's great to see you both. I haven't seen you guys in a long time. Seeing you on the screen is quite interesting. When David Rose at Bookshop had asked us, you know, of all the breadth and depth of the Taschen program, who would be the best to kind of interview, Mick Rock first came to mind because he's so fun to talk to. It just so happened to be that we had something to plug and something to push. And this is the new $40 edition of The Rise of David Bowie, 1972 to 73, the Ziggy Stardust years, and what a year it was. And I'm going to put it over to Reuel in a moment. I just wanted to briefly say, because I'd had a few questions about it, that this project first happened a number of years ago. I think it was 2016, wasn't it, Reuel, when we'd done a limited edition version of this. It was signed and numbered by Mick and by David, Mr. David Bowie himself, one of the last projects I believe he worked on, which sold out right away. It was $700 at the time. It's $4,000 now. Quite a good investment. And we came out with another edition of the book, which was a $70 version, which now that one is sold out and we would not be reprinting. So we came up with this $40 edition for the masses, for all of us, which I own as well. It's a wonderful, beautiful book that we'll get into now. And I'm going to pass it over to Reuel and Mick in general, and they're going to go over some of the iconic shots and talk as we do about all these great shots that Mick's done. So Reuel, why don't I pass it over to you?
Well, thank you, Creed. Thank you, Bookshop, and thank you, Mick. It's really a pleasure seeing you. It's been a while. You're looking sharp, looking good. I just wanted to ask maybe if you can hold up the first photograph that that I thought would be a good place to start. It's all about the pictures. It's about the story. So I think we could
they're totally in order, but nevertheless there are stories.
Okay, so
that one is.
This is when you first met David, correct?
Yeah, going backstage, and that was the first time I shot anything of him.
Right, right. And what What was your first impression of him, and how come you were there in the first place?
Well, that was always a big question, you know. The answer must have been something very scurrilous. It was, I had somehow, I mean, it was, you can make just about enough money to live if you, but I started out sometimes doing interviews with people as well.
Right.
Because I got a bit more, and the company, you know, only had to pay one set of expenses. I think that was the first thing with David. Was it Rolling Stone, for whom I had done a couple of things.
So you were shooting it for a magazine. It was like a music magazine at the time, and they said, "Go and shoot this cool guy."
Is that? But I'll tell you what else. That picture in the mirror. I mean, this one, I never really thought about for years, but nowadays the passage of time has, you know, has made this. I don't know if you can see it because it's got a bloody thing that says this is
amazing trousers.
Could we get rid of that? No, it sounds like she cut us loose and we're on our own. So it's
and where was that? Where did you shoot that?
That was shot. He was living just on the fringes of London,
right?
Haddon Hall, which is part of the mythology of Bowie, grew over the years, like where it all incubated. But
and what was your first
one in the mirror, which is this one? That was shot inside the house. That was the thing about these, and this is what really gave my relationship with David, you know, some that is that was daylight through the window. I think I hadn't slept in 3 days. Everything was like had an interesting shimmer to it, and the pictures that came from it looks like that. So how much did you have to do with it, Mick? Yeah, I don't know. I was there though. The key thing is, well, I was there. I don't know what else I can say about it.
Well, being there is a good start.
You know, the hits. But there's a bunch of them from this particular shit. David, that was one of his all-time favorite sessions.
I mean, he said it. He said at some point that Mick sees me the way I see myself.
No, that was the picture. That was it.
And so the obvious question is, how did you see him?
I think I intuited him. I don't think I was ever there to define David's image, but to help translate it. And also, you know, I was young and I wasn't thinking about money, but I ended up owning the pictures because, you know, which is nice. Even at the time, I forgot about this for years. And it's probably the last 20 years, the photography is blown up even more. I mean, it has been doing it for quite a while. And then the pictures acquire that iconic status,
right?
And that perception drives the value of the master image.
Right.
That's good for me. Whatever I do, whether I get paid, I don't get paid. The thing is to get paid enough, so it goes fine.
What was he like as a subject to photograph? Did he give you direction?
He wanted. No, he was more experienced than I was. He was well, he was. I mean, he had dabbled around a bit, even though the success was only on the horizon when I showed up. And I helped, you know, the videos, Life on Mars. So, you know, he knew I saw the magic more than literally I saw the magic. I was a believer. And I think in a way he kind of hypnotized me. You know, and then of course it led to all these other characters,
Right?
like Lindsay Kemp. There must be at least one picture of Lindsay in the book, and of course there was Ian Hunter, all the young dudes, you know, up the Hoople,
Right.
and Mick Ronson, the amazing guitar player who helped transform Bowie's music,
Right.
and.
So after you did the shoot at Haddon Hall, you then went on the road with him, right?
Yeah. I was scurrying around England. You know, it was up and down. Maybe pop over to Holland, or you know, it never got the importance of it. Was never fully explored when it was happening. It was only later. And people, this fucking shit is staying around. And people still talk about how it influences them. And I hear all this and I go, yeah, definitely. It's very easy to talk about David Bowie because he was a gentleman.
Right.
He was mad as a hatter, but and he had a sense of humor. You know, it was at that moment. It wasn't. I mean, he couldn't have had a photographer hanging around all the time in those days, but it didn't matter. So
But
now about 5,000.
Ambitious.
What's that, darling?
I said he was very ambitious, and I think he
was.
And in a way, he needed you to help him realize that ambition. Is that fair to say?
I would never say that.
Right.
They always think David just whatever.
Right.
They got caught in the wings. But I was prepared because Syd Barrett. See, that was the key. It was Syd who opened up the door.
Right.
And David knew that Syd knew certain things. And whatever. He said, Mick, the one thing I would have loved, but the problem wasn't in communication with Syd anymore. In fact, nobody was.
Right.
So he hadn't met he hadn't met Syd Barrett. He had a thing for Syd, and of course the book Moon Age Daydream with Genesis, same company, Psychedelic Renegade. And Syd, I saw the parallels between Syd and David.
Right.
Syd, you know, whatever, he had a different kind of psyche. I mean, he was very light and very talented. I mean, you see his art, you can find it, sometimes he destroyed it. But David knew that of all the people all the English people out there, he knew that Lou, especially, and Iggy were in America.
Do you want to show
yeah.
mention
pictures?
Iggy and Lou?
Well, you want
to show the pictures for your fans?
No dirty pictures, but maybe the Iggy and Lou photos is always great.
Just their presence. They were so subversive. Just they were definitely space boys. You know? And there's another space boy, Mick Ronson. Right? You don't know what order I'm going to show you, do you?
No. That's true. It's free-forming jazz.
Okay. We're on art time. Yeah.
So you went on tour. You went on tour with him basically, and you photographed him live a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What was it like those days, kind of going on tour? Because he wasn't quite a star then, was he? When he started the tour, he was becoming a star.
at the end of that, he was a star. But as it was going along, it's interesting. It was watching the building of it happening, you know.
Right.
And it's
Did you know you were a part of something at that point, Mick? Was it something special? It was just like we were partying and staying up all night and we were young kids.
I knew what I liked. Like Lou, Iggy, David, none of them had sold any records really. Space Oddity, a bit in Europe. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was, well, my part, it was all intuitive, but I can see in terms of key subjects in my life, obviously, well, Sid was the first, but I got a lot less pictures, but still, they are the Sid Barrett pictures.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw that thing with them. People that don't know Sid Barrett is to check him out.
I mean, you have the David Bowie pictures. You have a lot of you have the Queen picture. You have many pictures that are the most iconic that I think people know or may not know. If they're a bit younger, need to check them out. But Mick, maybe you can even hold up the Lou, maybe the Lou and Iggy photo. I love that one, Reuel.
Yeah.
I know you said, well, there's a little bit of cultural history in there. You go,
Exactly. This is
you fucking accuse me of any more crime.
This is a milestone in alternative rock of the early 70s.
I don't know what the hell it was. It was what turned me on. And it's just the way I wasn't looking for any money. Because there wasn't any, but because of all that, it was just a free flow of the energy. Not, I think there was less self-consciousness. I mean, yes, self-awareness, but that's a slightly different thing. I'll chat.
Or hold up any photo you like.
Where's the picture? I thought I had the picture.
I have it.
I think you should give it back to me. He's got it. He needs to give it back to me. this virtual stuff. The one thing about it is it's not going away.
I wanted,
even if this virus gets more contained and the shots and that, it's going to be ages before all that.
Right.
Viral, you know. I think, wow. People are always asking me, "Oh, you got to do the book, Mick," and I would say, "Oh, I got."
This is the
Yeah,
one.
that one.
Of course.
That's the one.
There's something about those three at that moment and what came out of it.
Right.
Well, and I was there and nobody else was. It wasn't like, oh, let's smash Mick Rock's camera so we can get at the subjects. It wasn't like that.
For people,
I knew them in a particular way. It was more, it wasn't like some rock and roll paparazzi. I was too big of a queen to be like, if you want me to, if you'd like me to take a photograph, you have to want it. One way of showing is with money. The other one is petting. You know, you have to pet photographers sometimes. Just like photographers have to be good at heavy petting, but not obvious. But the other thing was, I think a lot of those characters, we were all within a few years the same age. You know?
Right.
And I think Ian was the oldest. But he'd had a real life.
So you were young and hungry.
I was young and had the ability to respond to what was happening. I don't know why.
Right.
You know, what was I? I was like a hippie at Cambridge who took LSD, picked up a camera.
Yeah, it didn't look like you were eating much.
No.
Neither was David. Guys were skinny.
No, it wasn't even fashionable to eat much. Now I think, oh my God. And sometimes you realize it's not what is happening at the time, because, you know, we're all tough enough to survive a lot of that. It's what the long-term effect can be. But the only time I really start to question that is I go, So Iggy's still a fucking mutant. I mean, he shouldn't be, you know. He said, I mean, and he's fucking looks great, and he's having a good time, and he deserves it.
Yeah.
So, but Iggy and David and Lou, they're always linked in that picture, of course. There's two of them, very similar. One is the second one. I don't know which one that is. Can't remember. Ah,
He's in the middle. Right.
that favorite video of mine. Mars.
That's absolutely awesome. Awesome photograph. Awesome suit. So what's the background for that picture? What's the context?
We were making Life on Mars, and we talked about it maybe 3 days because they were going to release it as a single. Hey, I've been around. Anyway, whatever. Life on Mars. It was, and I knew I wouldn't have even known how to go. But what was it worth? What was a music video worth back then? Wasn't going to seem by many people. But, and there were many ironies. David recognized me, I think it was like 1999, as being the copyright owner of the visual music of that, and Genie, Space Oddity, John and Only Dancing. But this one is, although they all seem to be like, because David Bowie, after all, it didn't matter who made them, except Brian made them. And he, but the other irony, of course, is that I make more money off this, and I got 3 or 4 others that I've made off the video. But I actually do make a little. I mean, not to be vulgar about it all, but the nice thing is that, you know, it's in the video.
How long did it take you to shoot the Life on Mars video?
I tell you, it might have been 1 day.
Wow.
Could have been. I also shot second camera, and I also shot stills, and there was no plan. What are we going to do in this time frame? Yeah, mate said, well, space, got us a big space. And David, you know, just something you've never done before. Then Pierre Lapouf was sculling around, and he was complaining he never got paid anything. But I didn't. But it didn't matter because you didn't need a lot. The best thing was David looking like a space doll. It's that people talk about. It wasn't so much androgynous, David. He was definitely that. You know, I just think of a space doll. And in this period, of course, he did a lot of mutations. This is a shot. Am I just rambling on?
No.
I like it. Yeah, do it, Mick.
Love it.
This one, I like this one.
Yeah, me too.
This one, isn't this one in the book?
It sure is.
It is, yeah. It was it was an art edition.
And I'll pull it.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. I think
These side by side as a spread are fantastic. I mean, of course, you got him with the cutting of the wrist look, and then this minimalist shot.
Yeah, he was whatever. I mean, he was a great subject.
I want to ask you: did you ever get into in that kind of shot? Are you just capturing the moment, or did you ever, like, say, stand here?
It would be a mixture, but certainly David did what David did. I think part of what he liked about me was I wasn't interfering.
Right.
You know, that's because I was a sensitive young lad rather than a hooligan rock and roll photographer.
Right. I mean, you had incredible access. I said you had incredible access. You were just allowed to roam where you wanted to roam.
Yes, but I got some fashion stuff.
And I was going to say that these days, I think when people shoot artists, it's much more controlled, and in a way, everything about your pictures, everything about the book, it's quite kind of organic and low tech in a way. It's kind of before music was
I'm
an
sure
industry.
this book. Sorry, I didn't mean to. But I think this book is going to be an evergreen, and I'm not. Oh, look what I did, and I just David and the timing, and I'm sure it's not going to go away.
Right.
Yeah, more shillings every couple of times a year. Well, that's all right, whatever it is, and I have no complaints. I would have done another, but he couldn't. You know, I'm doing another book, but I would have done it with Taschen, but it was, you know, he likes the subject to be a bit, right, you know.
I wanted to ask you, Mick, about your classic, certainly my favorite shot amongst many favorites, the shot of Mick Ronson and David on the train.
Oh, now you're fishing.
What's the story there, and why is Mick looking at?
They were on the train.
I have it too, because it is really a beautiful photo.
There is a shot of David on his own, taken. I'm sure it's in the book.
Yep.
Taken, but this is the one that, yes.
Where were you guys? Where were you, and what was going on here? Looks quite sophisticated, huh?
Well, the thing was, David wouldn't fly. Which one would normally have done a little flight from London to Scotland? But David never wanted to fly. This was actually from London to Aberdeen. Aberdeen, I love it. They had their own carriage. And I just was hanging out and took a bunch of pictures. There's one of him sleeping in the cabin. You know, it was a certain time. I think it's just one of those things that happen with photographers and artists. You know, sometimes for whatever period, you know, there's an intensity, and that particular bunch of pictures is what pops out more than others.
Right.
Not that it's for me to say what is or what isn't.
And I would say, Reuel, because I know there's a lot of questions. I'm getting a lot of questions here, so I want to be sure to get to the audience a bit. But maybe, sure. I mean, Mick has so many iconic photos that people may not even realize, like iconic Queen photo or the Transformer photo, and maybe you even have one of those, Mick, to show, because I think even for a younger generation, like even mine and younger than me, they said, "Oh my God, of course I've seen that shot so many times," but didn't realize just how iconic it was. Do you have that? You have the Transformer photo with you?
I did, because I thought.
Yeah, I mean it's you know what.
Did you put it behind? Did you put it behind the sofa? Did you put it behind the sofa?
Yeah, maybe it's hidden, but it's of no real consequence. I think it's just one of those things where, at least for me, and learning about Mick Rock and everything that he's sort of done over
you could say, I just think he got lucky.
Yeah, you got lucky quite a few times.
I go,
well, yeah.
Sometimes a gold basket. A few times, but I've been, you know, God. Yes, he gives, but the past will always grab it back.
Well, why don't we do this, guys? I'm going to open it up a little bit, and Reuel, unless if there's one more you had to talk about or wanted to discuss. There it is, of course.
That's the cover of Transformer.
It came to, in some way, represent, like, you know, definitely to do with. You know, aberrant, the aberrant part of the tip of the culture.
Right.
It came more than anything because it kind of embraced the whole. And what was it? Well, it was a performance photo, and it slipped out of focus. and I was playing around at that moment in time with contrasted paper.
Right. Right.
So then I got
Fantastic photo.
It was perfectly in focus shot. It was like, not that there's any harm in that way. Well, we just say it was out of focus. I did it for artistic reasons, but I didn't. It's just when you saw it, it goes, what I was good at doing is seeing what was in front of my eyes.
So you're saying that you're very much an instinctive photographer, and that's how you got.
No, there's no stinking around here.
And that's how you got your best shots.
That's it. I think. I mean, I never bothered to learn much technically, a certain basic thing.
Right.
And I would get bored if I wanted to be, there.
In the moment.
Feel the frisson.
Right.
And some of these characters, and it's not about how many people were at concerts or how many records they've sold. Except for that all gets them into the public eye. But some of these characters, I can go, well, I don't know how much credit I can claim, but you go, yeah, but if I hadn't got those pictures, they wouldn't have been got because there wasn't anybody.
We're bloody glad you did.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And let me take it now, and we're going to answer a few questions from the crowd. I have one from Nate saying, Mick, your images are great. What kind of camera and lenses do you use these days?
That's like, like giving away a treat. No, I actually use Canons.
Canons.
Throughout, when I was shooting film, it was always, actually a Nikon man with Nikon lenses. And then the Hasselblad. I got to like that, and like that is actually taken in 2002. It's not in the book. But
yep. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I was thinking, rarely has this happened in my life. Not that I see anything wrong in it, but I was thinking of that shot. I think it's by Irving Penn of Picasso.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I supplied the stuff. But, and of course, I said, just, and that was enough. If I like reminded anyone of Picasso, he'd love that. I think he saw himself, even though he was like so beautiful, and he could, he was a sparkler. He also had this.
Yeah, it's a great shot.
He had a theory of spiritual side to him, and which often goes hand in hand with people who experiment a lot.
I have another one for you, Mick. It's, were the lives and times surrounding Bowie and Iggy really as decadent as the photos, as your photos and stories reveal?
No, not me. No, no, she actually died. That was my excuse for not doing a book. But I'm doing a picture book. That's a Mick Rock, whatever, however you want. But it's because I've done all these books of the individual people. I could do a slim Bowie, 2002, because I actually, but a smaller art book. That would be Bowie, and a lot of pictures never seen, and there's video of it too.
So were those times as decadent as they look?
You asked me that before. You're a very naughty boy. Your mummy a little later on. Yes, I'm afraid so.
Pressing the question.
Relative. That's I know the idea of it. You go, it was a fucking Sodom and Gomorrah gone mental. You go, no, it wasn't quite that. Certainly not every. Such an naughty.
Okay. Good, nice diplomatic answer there.
Yes, nice diplomatic answer. I have Katie. Katie asks, "I love your work, Mick. It's such an inspiration to young photographers like myself. Were there a lot of shoots that you did with David that were pre-planned, or did most of them happen organically? Would love to hear more about the process of how shoots like that came about, because we have quite a few of the sessions in the book."
it was very instinctive in the early going. It wasn't hard. Once David and I got that thing, it wasn't like it was. And he was quite comfortable with me hanging out backstage with him sitting in his underpants, putting his makeup on.
It's a good segue into the next question. Is did you ever feel uncomfortable taking a picture while you were just hanging out with David or any of your subjects? Not during a scheduled photo shoot, like all the kabukis, him putting makeup or in his underwear. There's clearly behind the scenes stuff that you've taken.
I think people understood that I was what I was in it for. And of course, I did make at least a bit of it decent, but it was really exploitative.
Did he approve your photo? Did he approve the photos? Was there some?
You know, I'll tell you what. David would approve of everything. Serious. But I mean, I obviously would edit.
Right.
It wasn't like every single frame was like. It was, but he was very easy to photograph, and he came to play. You know, he was going to be there, and he'll dance a bit, and he'll have a bit of a natter. And
Remind me, Mick, did David get to see the final produced product? I mean, obviously signing the pages and seeing the layouts, but did he get to see that final production of this in the end? Maybe Reuel knows this.
Yes, he did. And I think, Mick, you said to me that he wrote to you and said something like "jolly good show" or something.
Yeah, something very British.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. I have another question from Mona, and this is to the Queen album cover. Obviously, one of the most iconic rock photos ever. Is how much input did Freddie and Queen have on the Queen 2 album cover?
Well, let's put it like this.
And scoot forward a little bit, Mick, because I'm having a little problem hearing you.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm just getting a little too reflective.
Exactly.
No, they had come to me. I think it was Freddie, would make sense. They wanted some of that, like Bowie, Lou Reed, you know, glam but naughty, you know. So, and that was the vibe. It was the hot vibe in London at that time. But it was unrolled day by day with some projection, but also dealing with things as they came. There was a dynamic. And in London, David was, I think it was something to do with his Buddhist projection.
The Queen.
To get into a whole other thing, changes. That's a Buddhist song.
Right. The Queen. The Queen 2. Sorry, the Queen 2 cover was then.
I came up with the picture of Marlene Dietrich. I showed it. He showed it to the back. It's always in the books. That was she's on the set of Shanghai Express.
I know, yeah, for sure. I don't know how I hadn't read that before. Of course.
I put it in the books. So
yeah.
That was the inspiration. The difference is the lighting. Their eyes are a bit more hooded. I'll make it a little bit more rock and roll, you know.
Yeah, it's cool. And go ahead, Reuel. Sorry.
And then I was going to say that it was then used in the Bohemian Rhapsody video.
Yes, it was.
How did you feel about that?
Yeah, right.
Well, there's a tale to that, but I shouldn't really. And everything's fine, but you know, there was a process that had to be gone through.
Right.
Yeah, I imagine.
Because of the way photography and the perception of photography has changed since I mean, I don't even like to say it. But, you know, do you know how many years ago 1972 is. It's not that far off 50 years. So I sometimes go, God is pulling my leg. It can't possibly be this many years. But of course, people are very fascinated by, there isn't some footage and some that it's not like today, where everybody's got a phone.
Yeah.
Right.
And to take it back to David a bit, I have a question from Zach saying, if you had to pick one photo that you took of David that you personally feel best encapsulates him and his essence, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I mean, it's one that happened early on and that was key. And then because of the slightly metaphysical aspect, and I'm going to tell you, I mean, it's probably fairly obvious. There are others, but this moment, and I remember, very spaced out because I hadn't eaten, hadn't slept. It was, so my perceptions were really like on radar time. Where is it?
Well, you keep us in suspense. There's a question.
Yeah, ask me.
Well, while you find it, Mick, there's a question from Maureen that says the size of the Taschen book images seem to be about the size of the prints that Mick's holding up. Are they? And what type of input?
These are just 8 by 10.
Yeah, exactly. And I can tell Maureen this is actually a bit bigger. It's 9 by 12. So exactly right. They're actually going to be a bit bigger than what Mick's holding up.
Fine. The print, which is completely peculiar. Didn't I show up the one in the mirror?
Yes,
you did.
The mirror and the banana.
And that's what we started with, really. And I love that photo as well as kind of how what's the
looking glass thing, you know, that has
yep.
I think the depth of focus in the sense that.
And I'm
so
holding.
That's your favorite photo then?
Well,
of David.
To say it.
That's a hard question, I know.
Sometimes there's a Sid Barrett picture of him going like that in an empty room. It's so to be or not to be. You know? Because that's when, you know, Willie wasn't going to be with the other lads anymore.
So Mick, I have one sort of more.
The reason it's all right talking about Sid is that it does relate to David. Because
right.
David was a big Sid. I think the last thing he ever did in performance was at a Dave Gilmour concert. And did he do? Yeah, I think See Emily Play, which was on the Pin-Ups album. So
that's true.
Yeah, how these bondings and Lou and David, you know, that New York London synergy. Then I bought that one to show the Transformer because it was for all of them very important. Mick Ronson, and it also it transformed Lou's life as well. He was strictly underground until the album came out. Walk on the Wild Side. That was.
I have a good transition to that because there's a question from an Arnold that says Lou was famously hostile towards many journalists and photographers, but you and he seem to genuinely like each other and get along well. Is that true? And what was the secret to getting on Lou's good side?
I didn't work to that on Lou's good side. It just evolved. And what helped it was like with David, that shot. It was a Transformer photo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was so, you couldn't plan that photo. Oh, I got out this and this, it wouldn't mean anything. But obviously that moment of the head, burnt it out of it, how far it got out of focus, and why these things.
What's the secret
But I
to
did
staying?
make the prints,
What,
which I didn't have at all.
what's the secret to staying on a rock star's good side?
I've never thought about it. I mean, you can't stay on everybody's good side, but I've never been in a scream out with anybody. Maybe little misunderstandings, but I don't think any more of that. There's still been a basic respect.
Right.
Definitely.
But obviously, at a certain point, wasn't at first in the music business. No one talks about. I remember the first she would lady or whatever. Maybe I'd done her a favour. She was some kind of lawyer. Maybe she was a paralegal, but she started talking to me about intellectual properties. I remember saying, it's a photo. There's nothing intellectual about it. And of course, and that would have been about 89. But then seeing how it's all evolved with photography. Yes, there's the thing about photography, it doesn't all have to be art. Some of it's just information. Sometimes it's just fun. The thing that I like about the phone is you don't have to think about it, It's like, so you maybe get something a little bit quicker. I don't know,
Well, I don't know how we're going to get to all the questions, so I apologize to those out there that we won't get to. I'm scrolling and I see a friend of yours. I believe Mick is Cecily Armstrong. Hello, darling Mick from Cecily. Let's hear about you capturing the emotional side of Bowie and all your subjects versus focusing on the technical side of photography, as you have when we work together. I mean, I think you touched on that a bit, but there is kind of this balance. Both ways, did you have to you're so, at least when we're together, you bring it out of people, getting the laugh, getting a chuckle and the banter. Was that part of a tactic, or was it just Mick being Mick, or getting people in the mood?
I don't know. These things they're not really planned. Sometimes an impulse, something pops up in the middle of a high energy thing. And you pop it. So I don't think anymore about it. I've never really, I never thought much about it. I mean, I do think about my inner process and how that whole thing with the yoga, you have to understand that's very important.
Yep. And you do a lot, as we know. I don't know if you got a session in before the interview. I have another question, which I think is a good one. Which rock photographers or videographers do you admire today, if any?
Well, they're all different. It's very hard to say. That guy, Al Wertheim, who did those early Elvis.
Yeah. Worth Al, yep.
What he said, because he'd been around, he wasn't a kid photographer photographing Elvis. He was, I think, Life magazine or somebody was. He said he was always a bit disappointed that nobody ever wanted his Perry Como photo. I said, "Oh, you could have." Oh, he said, "I could have done a great book on Perry Como." But a lot of people want to go, "Who the fuck is Perry Como?" Well, my mother liked him. I remember that.
Al Wertheimer, we published that early Elvis stuff. I mean, you've.
Well, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Quite a few years ago, but he was around. I don't know. I just maybe knew him over about 5 or 6 years.
I mean, he had the kind of access that you had with David in a way. And
yeah.
Both at.
Lou was the other one I had it with, but
right.
that was spread over a longer period.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't things. I never had it. Well, I only did. This is the way. I was not like that. I'm sure I never see other photographers shoot, so I don't know how they get what they get. And they said, well, I like his pictures better than so and so than yours. And you go, that's just a matter of taste.
No, definitely.
Is there one?
You've got everything you need.
I was going to ask you, is there one rock star musician that you really, really want to photograph?
Oh, it'd have to be alive.
Alive, yeah.
Yeah, have to be alive.
That would help.
What?
Doesn't have to be. You can start with alive.
Start with alive and then work your way downwards. Alive and then dead.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting question. There was that guy who was a mate of Keith Richards, Michael Cooper. And he did a lot of, I mean, early on, because he was dead from an overdose by 27 or 28. And I just thought that was, he was in, you know, he was just born a bit ahead of his time.
Right.
And he had a liking for a certain, you know, je ne sais quoi. And je ne sais quoi never had that problem, I would say. Not that I would say.
Who would you like to photograph alive?
Oh, Elvis. No, young Elvis, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was so raw
Wishing he was
and kind of innocent, you know.
Right.
Thus the Alwertheimer.
Yeah, as well, which gives it an arty vibe, you know.
And so we really have time for one more question. And I'm sorry to all of you that I didn't get to. We had quite a few, which is great. And I know I've seen people from the UK writing in and all over the world here, which is a surprise. Very cool. This last one is just from Doreen. It's just the last one I seem to have gotten. Actually, a lot more. The way digital media has been changing due to social media and an affinity towards short form content, lower attention spans. What are the challenges you face in adapting to the way things are evolving? Because you do have a social media presence, Mick. You know, I think you have a team that's helping, and you do it as well. But you know, you're still shooting? You know, yeah, you just shot Miley, right?
Some old retread band looking for one last, you know, grab at the cash bag. No, not quite. She's totally modern as you can get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Miley is, yeah. And I mean, is there more challenges you're facing in adapting to that, or you kind of have your same approach that you've always had?
It's not. It just, you know, it starts. And start to have a look at this and a look at that. Oh yeah. It's not a rigid thing. Not with me. I mean, not that it can't be. When I've shot for Gucci, they have strong ideas about what the basic thing they want.
Right.
Think about, you know, advertising boards, posters, and that. So it has to conform to accommodate that. But it's
No, I understand.
I forgot what she wanted to know.
No, I think you answered it pretty well. We're out of time, unfortunately. We gave ourselves basically an hour, and I've gotten great questions about you practicing Kundalini yoga and all kinds of stuff, Mick. So your fans are out there. That's for sure. And Reuel, unless you had anything further to add, I just wanted to again thank bookshop.org for having us and supporting the independent bookshops, and of course for Mick and jumping on. I know your time is quite valuable, and talking about this book that we did together, and the fact that
he's a natural for radio. My God.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you should voice for
And one last plug, being the suit that I am, you can find it on bookshop.org, of course, which is fantastic. It has just come out in this COVID age of ours, and for $40, like I told Mick, we're giving it away. So
it's a bargain.
it's a bargain.
Thank you so much,
It's
Mick.
a bargain.
It's been a real pleasure to see you, Creed. Thank you, and thank you, Bookshop. I'm really impressed with what you guys are doing.
Exactly.
I
It was fun. I mean, I haven't seen you in so long.
Coming over. Okay, let's get on board.
Exactly. Well, thanks, guys. I don't know if Bookshop needs to jump back on. I don't think so. I think I'm signing us all off for all of us that are here. So
thank you
go
guys,
ahead and
guys for listening and your questions.
Yeah, thank you guys all for tuning in the challenging video conferencing days, sound and everything else. But bye, guys. Thank you, Reuel. Thank you, Mick.
Big kiss for everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.